subdivision modifier that was causing it to slow down.
Okay.
So thank you for telling me.
Let's just make sure we're getting this here. And once you disabled that or whatever, it was better?
What?
Once you disabled that, it was better?
Yeah. Just on the skin, but then also disabled it on the pants, on the hair, on the shoes, on the shirt, on the bra. And then there are also some multi-resolution ones that I also disabled.
And now it runs better?
Yep.
How many subdivisions were they running? Like,
So many.
like how
Each
many,
part of the person had one.
like how many was like the number? Like,
Two.
so each one of these subdivided twice.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like both for the viewport and the render. Those set
Yeah.
to 2 for both.
Yeah. Man, that is. Yeah, and it makes sense if like the entire scene is the character, but yeah.
You should put a 91 for
Check, 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 check.
Yeah, it makes sense if like the entire scene is the character.
well, like when it turns on.
It's like highly like res moves the big photo of it.
Oh, that's why you're not like you're not talking on the phone because you have.
Check, 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 check.
I thought I put it on the phone like in high mode.
Okay.
Like the grease pencil phone.
And then you, Alicia, were correct and I was wrong about the chains. After poking around on the internet, trying to figure out some things this weekend, it seems like putting a rigid body on every chain link is a solution.
Oh yeah.
So,
That sounds expensive though.
I don't know. It works, I mean, better than I was suspecting. So, Taurus, manage topology. So, some sort of even number, maybe 8. There we go. All right, and then from up here, tab, Control R, Control R. There we go. Then go to see-through mode and grab these and expand it into some sort of chain link looking shape. Then come back to here and we need these to stay separate objects. So Shift D, click RX in this case, Control. There we go. And make sure they're not overlapping, but in a reasonable starting position. Okay. Now let's relabel them chain and chain 2. Then these need to get, or actually it's, how did I do this quickly before? I duplicated this and then what did I do? I think I just did it by hand. Oh yeah. So I have both of them. Yeah. So I put the rigid body on here. Shift E, Shift E.
Would the rigid body work if you did it in a right modifier?
I don't think so.
Because like it would turn them all. Remember how I was telling you about like how I arranged all the chairs and tables and all became one thing?
Yeah.
I think the same thing would happen there. But like, treat it as one object. Oh, this is a way around that. Never mind.
Until you have enough chain.
I'm gonna do changes.
Okay, so now these are things with rigid bodies, but they need to be mesh shape. Otherwise, it won't respect the. Well, first, I believe this will happen. Yeah, there, that happens. If we get them all.
What shape?
You want to have mesh because the convex hull will not have a hole in it. I didn't have the rigid body on before I duplicated it. Okay, now yeah, they all have that there, so if I were to play it now, yeah, because it doesn't realize there's a hole in any of them. Now, since they're all the same, get rid of this light, get rid of the camera. I think it's already gone. So now, if you hold down Alt, you should be able to change them all at the same time. Yeah, so remember that Alt trick to make sure, you know, if you have multiple things selected, you're able to change multiple parameters. Now, there we go, you can see where we're going. Yeah, so it needs to be in mesh. Then we need some of them not to move. And so I'm going to take the end here and say passive, right? And this, you know, object is directly controlled by animation system. And so now, there we go. Chain is chaining. And if we were to grab this one here and also say passive, again, the name here, like, how about stationary or animated or something?
So you're good looking chains?
Yeah, okay, so that works. One time I did it, I was really stingy with the geometry, and they seemed to really want to just spontaneously explode at random times. And so, once again, I think once you get into the physics, far and away, the most important thing is the topology, not the array of unending sliders. So, yeah, I made one where it was just like really, really low poly, and that one didn't seem to hold up. So, I mean, this one is reasonable, and, you know, it looks like this, but I haven't even shade smoothed it, and now it looks fine. Now, the thing it's not going to do well is like stop. So you just need more, based on the previs I saw before, you just need more slack in the chains there to make sure they're not going to pull. Because now that this one is, well, I said both ends here. And so now I could animate this one. I would probably just make it a Well, let's just make sure there's no weirdness there. So we'll move this thing over here, and then we'll take this and we'll constrain it to this. And so we'll use child of the cube. There we go. And so now if the cube moves, yeah, there we go. All right, so that's what you would need to do on the wrist shackle thing. Okay, so now let's so building it in the sort of in the starting state is going to save you some headache in terms of like getting it to that portion. So do that. But here, with this hooked up here, now I can put the keyframes on that, put this here, and let's just record this. While we're recording, it's probably not going to look great, but let's play G. And I'm not moving this past, just sort of moving it up here. Let's move it up, over, there, okay. And turn that off. And so now, if I were to run this, yeah, okay, so there, the default physics simulation is cheap. In order to make it less cheap, it's in the scene, rigid body world physics. And so this is essentially the quality of the sim. So every Unity has this, every physics sim thing has some sort of world settings for how many physics calculations are we doing per frame, and then when things overlap, how much are we compensating for that. As far as I understand this, I mean, it's not like I can write a physics simulation system, but it's pretty, you know, if two things start to occupy the same space at the same time, you just get into this situation where we're like, okay, well, we'll move one so it's not intersecting, but then it may intersect with something else, right? And then, well, okay, well, then we need to move that, right? And then you could see, like, in a dense situation, how that would just end up in this, like, unending calculation spiral, a loop. So anyways, let's give this, I'll say 30-30 here and see. And then also, there's definitely a limit as to like how quickly you're going to be able to move the end of the thing. So let's see if I've, yeah, it seemed to do it there.
Cached or
No, it's not cached. If we want to cache it, that's here. You have to explicitly say that. But let's just move a little more gingerly here. Yeah, immediately went the wrong direction there. Because you'll definitely break it if you pull further. I couldn't get it to do that.
what?
What else did I do here? I thought I did something, so I was, because we moved that up. that was there. Did this have an additional thing on it? I might have put. Let's see, does that help our cause? No, it didn't stick to that. All right, let's see if that's it. So if that's there, it's possible that one extra step of adding the parent child of thing is not good, but let's see. If I just move the link itself, do we end up with anything better? So there and space G. I haven't explicitly cached it, but it's not moving. This one didn't get anything weird, right? Active, good, good, good. Over here, that's fine. It's being animated. In the scene itself, delete bakes. Let's see if we bake it, whether it calculates any better. Let's see here. That's what we got before. There's nothing different here. This one is passive. Yes, passive, active, passive. The rest are all.
Does passive mean that it is not expected to move?
Yeah.
So if you're moving it, it doesn't take that into consideration?
No, that's what it says in the passive. Object is directly controlled by the animation system. Yeah, it's just a terrible word. It's the wrong word to use there. Yeah, because here we're just doing what we want with the same things. This is a different file I'd set up earlier. But let's see if we can break this one. This one is working. Save incremental. There we go, delete those. And so here, let's try that extra wrinkle. We know that this one works, but does it work when I do the child of? So new thing. And then this needs to get the constraint for the cube. There we go. And now we'll animate the cube. And I deleted all the keyframes previously, right? Nobody has keyframes. No.
It's cached, I think.
Oh, right. I did cache this one. So in here, here, delete bakes. There we go. Now nothing should happen.
It's still here.
Okay, let's try not using the constraint. Here, because that seems weird, and I don't want to troubleshoot that, because it may just not work. Okay, and so if we got rid of that, and we just did it the old-fashioned way, where this is just a straight-up child of this object. There we go. Let's see if that is slightly less problematic. And so now, this one is still there. Back to passive. There we go. Now, that's correct. No constraints, just good old-fashioned child of. Now, let's do the same thing. So here, and then move this cube. Nope, does not like that. One last thing to try is on the passive one, also putting a collision on that. Let's see if that helps at all. Nope. Yep, so I think you may just have to animate the end of the chain close to the hands. It does not seem to want to be able to allow that to be controlled by something else, either with the constraint or with this on there. Could just join these objects. What if we did that? This one and this one. Control J. And now, again, making sure that this is a mesh. Passive, mesh. There we go. Okay, that works. Nothing weird. Now, what if we were to move this? Yeah, it really does look like it's still cached. Crash. Yeah, it worked well here when I zoomed before, but now it won't do anything. Is it this box that's the problem? In addition to saying passive, you need to say it's animated. That might be it. And this one's in 4.3. Is it that? Here it is in 4.5. That looks fine. Let's try animating it again. Here's just regular stuff. And if we again run it, see here it's following somewhat. Let's see, is it? Was that what was happening with the chairs?
When I started doing, when I was trying to move them into keyframes, it was acting very weird with the bake and stuff. That's why I just didn't use keyframes at all.
Yeah, it's really still reading the same info. If we delete these bags, if we look at all of these objects on here, active, dynamic, mesh, deform, deforming, dynamics. Is there anything in the settings? So you never moved the chairs from the sim to keyframes?
Yeah, because whenever I do that, it was like, if once I would change one, worse and worse, the more like I converted them to keyframes. It's just like, yeah. And like I would try to rebake it, and it would just like, the yellow line would just stay. Like, it would just, yeah, it was really weird. I'm seeing a setting called a free bake on like the rigid body settings somewhere. And it like, I don't know what that does.
Here on the object itself.
That's what it says, but then again, it's the AI overview, so who knows? But in the physics cache settings, click the free bake button. So maybe it is in the scene settings.
Simulation range, gravity, rigid body world, speed, steps per frame.
You have 250 frames in memory right now.
Yeah, no, that was another thing. Like, it would save their frames memory, and it's like you can't delete them. Like it's really weird. I don't know. At least that was what's happening for me. It's just weird. You could go to the file location and delete it.
That was a serious
It is
suggestion.
this method too from the AI suggestion. So
Seriously.
Cache.
Okay, now this is a dotted line.
Maybe. Oh, there you go. Let's recalculate. There you go.
Yay.
I have no idea what happened. Okay, so what do we do?
Make it dotted somehow.
Changing the speed seems to reset the thing so that now it actually recalculates.
That actually was one of the options here. Is make a
Randomly scrub
it
speed
was-
to
it was
recalculate.
a significant change to the physics simulation to make it recalculate it. That was one of the options. I didn't know that would do that, but shrink Blender to recalculate by making a minor change in the physics. Like,
Whatever you do, God forbid, don't click the recalculate button. It doesn't work. Right, because the usual behavior is when you do that, it totally resets and redoes the thing. Okay, and so the cryptic visual language here is that when we get the striped line, then that's, yeah, then it's not there. And so if we just say, can I just go back 0.5 and then go back to 1 and then tell it to run again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying you could just like turn off and on the gravity as well. That'd be a quicker thing, off on gravity. Whatever that is.
Okay.
I'm surprised that is actually. I should have believed the AI overview.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So now,
Very intuitive system.
Just as you'd expect.
this is due for overhaul soon, hopefully. Like it's all old stuff. But okay. So now we know how to actually get it to recalculate. Does any of the stuff we figured out work? And so now, if I were to get rid of these keyframes so that we could actually parent it to the ARM like we wanted to from the very beginning, So let's get rid of these keyframes. Let's recalculate the sim. Okay, and so now it just sits there as one would want. Now if I make a new thing, and move it over, and now tell this child this to be a child of, in your case would be like hand bone or something like that.
Chain connected to the hand bone.
Yeah, okay, so now if I move this around, that comes around, that's great. And so now, yeah, select this, turn that on, go to the side, and space G. Stop. I mean, clap for me, not the Blender devs. Yeah, if it was just a more transparent system about when it's cached and when it's not, that would be, because it's functioning great. Like, I honestly thought this would just be like, you know, too slow. But yeah, I think, you know, it's plenty fast. And now, yeah, and so your setup is the same, except way more chain. In fact, I'd probably just make it really long and then have it just terminate in like a pile of chains, like static pile of chain there. That would give you the most leeway so that then they could just sort of pull on it and you're not going to, you know, worry about, because if you do pull it past, like it just doesn't work, right? It's not going to like stop. So that would do it. And setting it up in the, you know, sort of neutral position, so it's just going from like here to there. So it might take a little bit of like curving, you know, there to get it to work. But now that's working. And we all learned something that hopefully gets changed really soon in the Blender interface.
I will say, because when I was originally trying to do the chair stuff, I had put mesh colliders on them,
Mm-hmm.
and like it went like really slow.
Yeah, so I mean,
I don't know.
yeah, even a high res chain link is still going to be orders of magnitude smaller than a chair,
Yeah.
right? So that's a lot of it. Like in a lot of these instances, I mean, you can get a add-on to do it or a plugin in Unity. There's maybe a built-in thing too. And then in Unreal, it does it in the interface, is that, you know, you have the mesh and then it'll automatically generate a collision mesh so that you have something, you know, because you have some sort of really high-res leg where it's like there's these parts and something like this, right? The collision mesh could probably just be like, meh, 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 and like that's good. And in Unreal, there's a slider. You can sort of say like more detail on collision mesh, less detail on collision mesh, and then go from there. Here, is there any mechanism for that? And if there is, does it even work? Can I sub out a different mesh?
They're different shapes, but like you can't even like edit them, like the sizes. I don't think.
Yeah.
You just like move where they are.
Yeah, I know this is one of the oldest parts of the program. So we're like bagging on people that like probably don't even, you know, do the work anymore here. And yeah, in Cinema 4D, they had just like recently redone all of this and it was spectacular. But this is iffy. But yeah, I've got no bounciness, which I think is the default. Friction was fine. The other thing I was experiencing, because it was kind of, even moving it around a little bit, I thought it was like kind of bouncy. And so I was looking at doing some stuff with the weight of these. So what if it's like two, again, I don't think the actual, you know, knowing what 2 kilograms feels like here, I don't think is like really useful information, just sort of like it's a bigger number. Yeah, so that gives you a little bit more heavy chain look. And so this is the problem with like animated stuff on top of the physics stuff, is like it's just moving the position and then moving the stuff out so it doesn't contact with each other. There's no like every time this chain link intersects with the other chain link there, it's as if it's being moved by like this Superman amount of force, right? Which gives it this like bouncier sort of feel, where in real life there'd be a lot more. The other thing to possibly explore was damping in the global settings in the scene. Damping's just kind of essentially like, you know, instead of air, like the whole scene's filled with like molasses, you know, like to really like drag it down. Oh yeah, so I turned that down to 0. Let's see what if it's at 0.2 there, right? And so I am in the, where am I? Scene, properties, drag, yeah. So there, if I turn this on, I'm not sure it's getting recalculated actually, so let's just jam that button. Okay, it doesn't look super visually different. If I turn this up more. Oh, this is a multiplier. That's right. That's what I was thinking. So in order for this to do anything, you need to actually have a drag force in the project. Okay, so now there's a drag force. And so now this will probably not work. Yeah, like so. I don't know what's happening. So now we need to not multiply by 1. Let's say 0.1. And so let's try that. Yeah, so now like the air is so thick, like it's almost as if it's like, you know, like underwater or like under molasses. And so let's go to the actual drag object. Drag. And what if these values were, I don't know, 1/3 of that? And so we're actually seeing something. There we go. There, we're actually getting a little bit of that like pulling up there at the end. So that's pretty close. What if even still a little thick? So over here, here, yeah, what if this was 0.1 as well? This is the other thing with the physics system. So part of the reason is that this is, you know, I'm having to explore what seem like strange values for a lot of this is like, I didn't model it to scale. So your figure is presumably roughly to scale, right? So you'll be making the chain like roughly to scale. So that should hopefully work in your favor there in that like the default, usually they try to set these default physics values so that like if you build the thing to scale, it's roughly, is it going to behave roughly like you would? Because they usually use the size as like a default mass multiplier, right? You know, like so if you make a big thing, it's like a big thing made of concrete versus like you made a giant, you know, inflatable box or something that's, you know, going to have some sort of strange or just unusual mass in physics. But that looks better and it works. So that's great. Let's save that one. And then, yeah, this one I think was even lighter than the other. Or no, this is a little bit heavier, and it was still fine. I don't know what that is, like 12 or so rotational things around. And so that works pretty good. Yeah, and so, I mean, it's calculating. So once, before you render, or pretty much, I mean, I would do this. I would try to come to some sort of, before you spend some time wrangling this, I would get the, character, animation, somewhere around, like this is roughly what I want for in terms of like how the arms and legs are going to move and everything. Then in order for this, because building the chain has to have this like settling, in the other programs, like you can pre-run the sim, and I looked, I couldn't find the equivalent here if there is a thing, so that you can have it, like relax, and then when you start, it's in the relaxed position. Doesn't seem to be available. So.
Just like when the simulation takes place, or that's our particle system. Never mind.
Oh, like back, like make it negative.
Yeah. Maybe depth physics. I don't know.
Let's see. So if I make it like 50,
Gravity.
You have to re-gravity.
Oh, what?
Huh?
yeah. I mean, that was good intuition, but like, I don't know. We just shoved negative time into some sort of physics simulation. So like, I don't know, man.
My idea is to just change the start on the timeline.
Yeah, that was my second point. Give yourself tails on either side, right? So that like, if you need to, you can just sort of like stand there and let the chain settle, and then the animation starts, right? And then you can just edit around it later.
So do the character animation to 80%, then start.
Yeah, so that you're like it's not going to drastically change, because I think the key to not making it a nightmare is like making sure that once you do the chain stuff, that you're relatively in the right position, right? You're just not going to radically change. Then give yourself tails on either end, and then before you here, let me put 0 and then do that again and run it. Why did that totally bust the entire thing?
Go to the gravity check.
Are we still in the negative?
No, I turned that off.
Did you put it to 0 instead of 1?
Oh.
Was it a 1 before?
I guess it could have been, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Jam all the buttons.
Great.
Okay. What a... Yes, if you're at 0 instead of 1, then the whole thing is just garbage. These kind of things drive me insane with computers. It's like... there's funding and resources now for Blender. I mean, but in like the Adobe case, like why is there not just like a whole like warehouse of people? Like, what do you get paid to do? I get paid to use Photoshop every day for 8 hours and then tell people what to fix. Like just the basic, like that would, it's not like these things are technically crazy. It's just sort of like the resulting system. It's like, oh yeah, I set this as 0 and nothing works. That doesn't seem like desirable behavior. Tails on either end, and then once you're fairly good there, I would come back and I guess explicitly bake the bake button, but I don't know. It seems to be implicitly doing that every time anyway. But like that way, it's for sure saved, and you'll see it's storing that there. Your cache will probably be significantly better, and then also it should play back way quicker, if you have more stuff there. And then, with the chain stuff, if you find it breaking apart a bunch, perhaps one subdivision on the links, and then after that I would make sure I would change the step size here in like increments of 10, like 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. See how that goes. What is split impulse? Yeah, I don't know. That sounds good.
Oh, let's make now.
All right.
Every time I've done any physics stuff, I've like clicked the make, like delete a million times.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems bouncier, but tough to say. Anyways, that's in the ballpark. Trying to think of how this could be useful for anyone else. I mean, Jack's doing this, so you couldn't. Did you press this button when you were doing the chairs?
When I was trying to convert them to keyframes, yeah, but like since it works as is, but like cause it is baking like on its own kind of like what you're like how you can see like where it's even though you got big there, like there's still the yellow line. So like I haven't like it's baked,
Uh-huh.
which means I guess it could change. It has the ability to change, but as long as I'm like touching the settings, like I think it'll just stay. So.
Yeah. I was thinking about yours because you do want the fireworks stuff to bounce around, but you don't want it. You know, it doesn't. We don't need to sim the fireworks bouncing off the chairs and stuff. Like that seems unnecessary. But you know, like in Unity, like we did this morning, those would be two separate systems. Like the particle collision is totally separate from the physics collision.
Not the case here, where there's like in the physics settings, is that or in
Well,
the-
did you do the firework with the particle system?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's the case here. I mean, if I
It has
were.
like I think it has like a hit on like die on hit or something like that, or I don't know. And you can like choose what it can like impact with, I think.
Okay.
So I have like an invisible box around the entire room, so I can just like set it so where it only collides with that.
Only collides with the invisible
If that
box.
is the case, I want to say that is.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Something.
So. Yeah, in some other, like one of the other ways you could do it in C4D is to just sort of animate like there's separate spline or curve physics. And so you just, run the physics on this and then essentially just clone the stuff onto it, which is usually enough in a lot of situations. But I mean, this is like technically more accurate if it works. So there's that. But yeah, so if this had a particle system on it,
It's trying to rest away the chains.
yeah, see now this is red. Yeah, the red for the universal. Yep, that's good. Good to go.
Is that the particle bake, maybe? Like.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
And the physics bake? Perhaps?
Yeah, because this is not baked. If we do this, and then turn screen.
I think yellow just is physics and red is particles.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so how did you propel the chairs to start?
I just used a force. Just in the middle of the room.
And that just propelled all of the chairs from where you needed them.
From the force. I mean, like yeah. stuff to the force to like make it so it's not like a constant burst.
Mhm.
It's not constantly going, but yeah, really have to play with the. I don't remember anymore. Like I just yeah. I don't even remember what I did at this point. A lot of like tweaking the strength and flow and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
So like that, just a
Pretty much,
burst
yeah,
at the
just a
beginning.
little
Yeah.
burst. Like for some reason the flow like really like changed how it worked. I don't know what flow means, but
Convert effective force into air or flow velocity.
like bumping that up like really made it like actually do stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Don't go to that country.
Favorite. Oh.
Oh.
It's coming back.
It's really thinking about it.
It's just gonna crash once every frame.
I didn't bring it up that high. There's like a limit on it, right? Like 10 or something? Or I think.
Yeah, I ignored that and just jammed a big number in there.
I think I just bumped up to
I ignored their suggestion. Yeah, I think it's blown the chain apart.
Yeah, so if it's like a stationary object, it would actually,
Yeah. Okay.
and gravity off too. So, it just.
Oh, right. Okay, so I think that's to the point where we can get it to work. Because we know now you can get it to constrain to, the wrist bone or something there. Because on the regular constraint, you can constrain it to a bone. And so that should be, you have to say the armature and then you'll say the bone. And that should work. And so this, should move the end of the chain around as long as it's in like a pretty reasonable starting position. The other thing I would do is when you're laying out the chain, really try to make sure that there's not overlapping in the start position, because that would probably lead to it busting apart. But for the most part, that's there. Okay, that worked. All right, so now a sort of more usable compositing flow from what we were talking about last time. As we get ready for stuff, let's see, can I use a different file? I'm gonna close this. And here, there we go. And here. Okay, that works. What does this look like? Could use some more light. Let me get rid of this one. There we go. And do this. There we go. And maybe come back here. Okay, and so this is a good example, I think. We have something to focus on, so let's look at the compositing here. Let's go ahead and save this incremental. Come over to the compositing tab. Okay, and so The big new things here, right? Why do we say we want to use an EXR?
It has a high dynamic range.
Right, so more bits, right? So we get more leverage in compositing, right? The other thing is that beyond more bits, we can do multi-layer EXR. And so this allows us to put all render passes in one file. This is convenient, right? Especially sending it over to After Effects, right? Now, instead of having separate image sequences for mist, character, background, depth, whatever, you can have it all in one thing and select them over there. I'll explain. So let's use the nodes here. Let's at least get one frame on the table. There we go. Let's do a little bit higher resolution than that. I think I tamped this down. Yeah, let's 80. There we go. And let's render again here. Okay, that's good. So now I'm going to come over here to my render output settings. And let's make a folder for this stuff. So in the 240 folder, make a new folder here. This will be multi-pass. There we go. And double click here. And I think I already had something named multi-pass. Don't want to confuse that. This will be this. If you hurt yourself and I have to go to meetings, I'm going to make sure you're at all the meetings. And when they ask, Dr. Farina, how did this happen in your class? I'll just defer to you. Multi-pass, EXR.
I'm just so overjoyed being in this class.
There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, output down here, we're going to go, you guessed it, OpenEXR multi-layer. This is going to do our thing that we need to do. And we're going to say float half because that's enough, should be enough bits for us for right now, keeping the render size in mind. And so now that's good. How do we get the separate things? First of all, we need some separate things. Let's just do mist first as an example. First, let's configure the mist pass. So up here with the camera I have, which camera am I using? This tracking cam. We go to the scene, the view layers. We say mist. We go to the camera. We say show me the mist output. And then we go to the where's the last one where we get to adjust it? That's there, that's there. In the world, it should really be in the cameras that are. Okay, and so in order to actually see something in this pass, let's bring this way back. And we'll bring this. There we go. Right, so from here to there, now there should be some information that's reusable there. And that was in this tab, world. Good. So there we go. We have a mist pass and it's doing stuff. back to here in compositing. Let's get both of those into a multi-layer EXR. So Shift A, file output. The file output node allows us to configure file output in a much better way. Press N. Actually, you have to select the node, press N, go to node, and there's more interface for this node. For instance, we can have multiple, we need to say same thing, so multi-layer, float half. I think if you do this first, this defaults to that, so then you're good. Then here, I'm going to call this beauty pass, and then I hit plus, or I say add, and then I get another one here that I can say mist pass, and there we go. So you see how this is working? We get these multiple inputs, and now I can take this into here, this into here. Let's test one of these. So I'll just render one frame. There we go. And if I look in that folder, there it is. You don't get a preview in the window. To After Effects. And in After Effects, as After Effects is loading here, the key is going to be it's spelled extractor or something like that. This is the plugin, the effect that allows you to access the layers of the multi-layer EXR. So essentially now you can use the same sequence for layer after layer and just say this layer I need to be mist, this layer I need to be beauty, whatever. Well, you don't want to hear from me. Is that like the, oh, that's the,
EXR layers.
classes are canceled or will resume tomorrow?
How do we do? What? It's because of the super creepy rush hour here. Morning gasoline. I don't know.
What is it?
Is it the same thing you just said? Huh. They're like, we know you guys need this information. Why?
Okay, live streamers, the alarm's going off and saying school is canceled. It seems like I have no idea why that would be the case right now. The building, as far as I can tell, is not on fire. Okay, I'm going to stop the stream. If you don't hear from me again, I'll chime in on Discord. But we should probably leave the building right now.